Known to be one of the most sadistic villains in the X-Men universe, Sabretooth, or Victor Creed, has gained a reputation as one of the biggest threats to mankind. Besides his violent tendencies and offensive personality, Sabretooth's biological structure is a marvel in itself. His physiology is one of his biggest assets, and he has an adamantium skeleton, enhanced reflexes, and retractable talons, among other things. Today, we shall explore some of Sabretooth's most insane biological capabilities and tell you all about the inner workings of his body. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
We're brothers, Jimmy. You realize that? Brothers protect each other.
Exploring Sabretooth's origin. Sabretooth, or Victor Creed, was born in the late 1820s to Thomas Logan, who later fathered another son named James Howlett. Over time, Victor sought his younger brother out just around the time James's mutation began to manifest, and the sibling duo grew up together and fought in numerous wars, such as the American Civil War and the World Wars. Victor Creed's descent into madness started with his recruitment into Team X, a top-secret CIA covert operations unit. Here, he met the likes of Wolverine, Silver Fox, John Wraith, and Agent Zero. And in one of these missions, Creed displayed the extent of his psychopathy when he killed a renowned scientist on a mission against Omega Red. Creed often got into trouble for attacking civilians and dismissing them as collateral damage, and he was eventually recruited by the Weapon X program. As a part of this program, Creed underwent a standard memory tampering procedure, and by the late 1960s, he started going by the name Sabretooth and carved a new identity for himself as a mercenary assassin. Now that we've explored his origins, let us dive right into his physiological details and look at everything that makes him such a deadly force to reckon with. Sabretooth has a fascinating regenerative healing factor. To kick this off, we have Sabretooth's iconic healing factor, which was, interestingly, not even a part of his initial character profile in Marvel Comics. Over time, this became one of his characteristic biological abilities after Marvel introduced Sabretooth as a part of Weapon X alongside Wolverine. As a part of this program, Sabretooth's powers and abilities underwent an upgrade, and his primary mutant ability revealed itself in the form of an accelerated healing factor. This healing factor allowed him to regenerate any damaged bodily cells and recover from injuries in a moment's time. And while he already had this ability to some extent, it was greatly boosted due to Weapon X's experimentation procedures. He could not only heal from minor injuries and bruises, but also repair tissue damage and bounce back from otherwise fatal wounds such as blunt force trauma, severe burns, or gunshot wounds. In addition to this, Sabretooth was immune to poison, human ailments, and drugs, and his regenerative healing factor also came with a bunch of bonus powers such as enhanced stamina, durability, and immunity. Now that we have established Sabretooth's healing factor's superiority, he owes this power to Chris Claremont, one of the most seasoned comic writers to have ever worked with Marvel Comics. Since Wolverine was already a pretty powerful entity, it was Claremont who insisted that Sabretooth should get an increased level of regenerative abilities to balance out Wolverine's adamantium skeleton. However, Sabretooth did get adamantium grafted onto his bones at a later point in his story arc, which considerably tipped the scales in his favor when weighed against Wolverine's capabilities. His healing factor works at an impressive speed. While we've established that Sabretooth has a superior healing factor, we must also point out that this healing factor works at an incredible speed. Initially, his injuries healed at a speed proportional to their severity, and common bruises took barely any time to heal, while more severe injuries, such as a broken back or a gunshot wound, would take a few days or even weeks to heal. However, Sabretooth's healing factor has undergone several changes over the years, and his healing speed has increased manifold due to several augmentation procedures.
You owe me a scream.
Sabertooth's inbuilt weather insulation. Sabertooth's body had an inbuilt weather insulation system, which enabled him to withstand extreme temperatures ranging from icy cold winters to scorching summers. His body could also survive in sub-zero temperatures, and there was no limit to his capacity to endure harsh weather conditions. Sabertooth has extended longevity. Among other things, Sabertooth's healing factor helped him prolong his life by slowing down the aging process. His enhanced longevity helped him appear youthful at the peak of his prime, even though he had long surpassed this age. Sabertooth's body boasts limitless stamina. While regenerative healing factors and extended longevity seem enough to keep a man alive for a long time, Sabertooth also has limitless stamina when he needs to keep going for longer. His advanced musculature produces fewer toxins, and he can exert himself at his peak capacity for about 24 hours without breaking a sweat. Sabertooth's mind-blowing super strength. While Sabertooth was an incredibly powerful being, his strength had been artificially augmented on several occasions throughout his career. He could initially lift up to 800 pounds at once, but after his first augmentation, he could lift up to a whopping 2 tons. This augmentation was a result of his genetic experiments at his own son's hands, and he later underwent more procedures as a part of the Weapon X program. Sabertooth already had raw animalistic strength, and all these augmentations only boosted his physical prowess to unimaginable extent. While these powers are so divine that they cannot be quantified, the official handbook of the Marvel Universe has stated that he is much stronger and can lift about 2 to 10 tons. Over the years, we've seen him engage in numerous fights with Wolverine, where he managed to rough him up pretty badly while only getting a couple of minor bruises himself. Sabertooth was known for his increased agility. Among other things, Sabertooth had enhanced agility, and it was quite easy for him to strike a balanced pose and coordinate his movements smoothly. His agility was increased to a level beyond human capability, and he was agile enough to surpass most well-trained human athletes when it came to balancing his movements. Sabertooth's enhancements gave him superhuman reflexes. Besides superhuman strength, stamina, and agility, Sabertooth also had enhanced reflexes that surpassed those of most human athletes. He could move around in the blink of an eye, and it was quite impressive to see him dodge bullets or knives at the speed of light. Sabertooth has superhuman senses as a result of his mutation. Among other things, Sabertooth's mutation has resulted in him gaining superhuman senses in pretty much all his modalities. To begin with, his vision expanded into the ultraviolet and infrared ends of the electromagnetic spectrum, which enabled him to see in complete darkness and also view things at a faraway distance with excellent clarity. He could also pick up on sounds beyond the scope of human hearing capacity, and he could detect the sound of light and even human breathing over a distance of 200 feet. He did not have any enhancements in his sense of touch, but he did have an interesting taste palette that allowed him to define granular aspects of every taste palette within his food. Finally, his sense of smell was well developed, to say the least, and he could track down his targets by scent, just like a wolf. His nose was sharp enough to detect minor chemical differences in deodorants, and he had no trouble discerning the difference between the most undetectable scents. While these superhuman senses worked in his favor most of the time, they could sometimes get him into trouble, as some of his opponents could manipulate sound frequencies and scents to lure him in. Sabertooth's acute senses are further enhanced to give him night vision. While we have already explored all of Sabertooth's superhuman senses, his night vision deserves special mention in this list. He had the ability to see in complete darkness and still make out everything in his path, and his night vision made him unstoppable even after the sun went down. Sabertooth had a sharp set of claws and fangs. Sabertooth was equipped with retractable talons instead of fingernails, and these talons were considered to be sharper than a human bone. These claws made it easy for Sabertooth to cut through most tough surfaces, flesh, metal, and other materials with ease, but on some occasions, he needed to exert higher amounts of force to cut through thick materials. That one occasion where Sabertooth gained an adamantium skeleton. For the longest time, Sabertooth was deprived of an adamantium skeleton, and it was maintained that his body had viscerally rejected the metal when it was first circulated within his system during the Weapon X program. However, it was in 1993 that Larry Hama and Mark Teixeira came together to create a comic miniseries exploring Sabertooth's relationship with this rarity of metal. The story kicks off with Sabertooth being cornered by the Hand, and soon shifting towards his traumatic childhood and all the abuse that he had endured at the hands of his father. As it turns out, this was only the beginning of his doomed lifetime, as he was soon captured by the Tribune, which offered to upgrade Sabertooth's body if he killed Mystique. Over the course of the story arc, we shockingly learn that Tribune is none other than Grayson Creed, Sabertooth's son with Mystique. Grayson kept up his end of the deal and ensured that Sabertooth could finally go through his procedure to lace adamantium to his skeleton. This process boosted Sabertooth's healing factor and abilities, but it wasn't long until he lost these powers when Apocalypse intervened and decided to give them to Logan instead. However, Sabertooth soon regained his rightful abilities with some help from Gambit, after which the Weapon X program decided to re-recruit him. Sabertooth's adamantium poisoning resistance. Just like any other being with adamantium grafted on their bones, Sabertooth also suffered the threat of adamantium poisoning. However, this poisoning was quite gradual, and Sabertooth's healing factor was equipped to fight against it and keep him healthy despite the rare metal's attempts to destroy him from within. Sabertooth was an expert at hand-to-hand combat. Among other things, Sabertooth's physiological abilities, paired with his training with the CIA and the Weapon X program, had turned him into an expert hand-to-hand combatant. For a brief period, Sabertooth also appeared as a part of the Avengers in a comic miniseries, where he trained and honed his combat skills under the watchful eye of Nick Fury. Sabertooth was a natural hunter and tracker. Among other things, Sabertooth's innate biological abilities helped him hone his skills as a hunter and a tracker. His enhanced skills included ultraviolet and infrared vision and the ability to hear the slightest sounds and pick up the mildest of scents, all of which came together to make him a natural hunter. Along with this, Sabertooth had spent countless hours in rigorous military training programs, which further added to his hunting abilities. In fact, he has a yearly ritual of hunting Wolverine down on his birthday, and he takes this challenge quite seriously. It doesn't matter if Wolverine is out in the open or in the deepest depths of a rainforest. Sabertooth blindly relies on his impeccable tracking skills to succeed in this mission year after year. Sabertooth's incredible resistance to telepathic probing. Among other things, Sabertooth's enhanced physiology and intellect enabled him to block telepathic attacks. He was resistant to any and all forms of mind control and telepathy, and even the most powerful psionic mutants failed to break through his resistance. Sabertooth has brain and brawn both. While Sabertooth's brawny appearance and arrogant personality might make it seem like he isn't the sharpest in the room, this is far from the truth. Contrary to most beliefs, Sabertooth was quite an intelligent entity, capable of hacking into secure government systems and even escaping the most secure prisons. Sabertooth's assassination skills were beyond measure. Over the course of his life, Sabertooth was affiliated with numerous organizations where he underwent extensive training in various assassination techniques. He was further trained to handle any weapon placed in his hand, and he had an impeccable record for assassinating his targets on a professional and personal front. Sabertooth's strength stood at a Class 10 level. While we've already established the fact that Sabertooth had superhuman strength, this point further stresses the extent of his abilities. His strength was classified at being at a Class 10 level, meaning he could easily lift up to 10 tons without blinking an eye. Furthermore, Sabertooth's strength intensified with an increase in adrenaline, and the upper limit of his strength was unknown. While Sabertooth's powers knew no bounds, they failed to work against the mighty Muramasa blade. Just like several other mutants, Sabertooth was vulnerable to the Muramasa blade, which could nullify his healing factor and leave him without an additional layer of protection. This blade was created out of a piece of Wolverine's soul, and it primarily worked against beings such as Sabertooth, who largely depended on his healing factor to establish superiority. Marvelous verdict. Ranging from an adamantium skeleton to superhuman strength and stamina, Sabertooth certainly has one of the most impressive physiologies in the Marvel Universe. While we've tried our best to sum up some of his most insane biological facts here, do share your views in the comments and let us know if we missed out on any details. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.